All right, let's get started. Welcome. Welcome to this search party, which is tonight dedicated to iOS. My name is Mary, and we are all very happy to have you here tonight. So you're gonna watch 3 amazing speakers in a few moments, but before that, if you want to share what great content you're gonna learn tonight, or the amazing food you're gonna have, or whatever, you can use the hashtag you can see at the bottom of the screen, so Algolia Search Party. And yeah. So, for those who don't know, the Search Party is actually an Algolia event that happens every month. And obviously tonight you are aware of it, it's about iOS, but at the beginning of next month, so beginning of July, sorry, we're gonna host an Node.js search party. So if you are interested in Node.js, you're happy to come back. Our goal with the search party is really to bring every type of community to share some contents, topics, and also some things about search, because, I mean, I don't know if you're aware of it, but we love search here. So yeah, and this particular search party is a bit special because we did a partnership with Swiss Paris, and actually we want to thank the team for teaming up with us to host this search party. And unfortunately, Greg couldn't be here tonight, but he wanted to tell you about something, some news that you are going to be the first to be aware of. So the next Dove Swift conference is going to happen the 20th of January of next year. And because you're lucky, you can use this code, and you will have 20% discount on your tickets if you want to attend the conference. And also, if you want to submit a 4-minute lightning talk, you are welcome to do so by going to this URL you can see behind me. Who knows already what Algolia is? Okay, so a bunch of people. So for the one that actually don't know what Algolia is, we are a hosted search API, which means that if your application or website needs search, you can use us. What makes Algolia special is that you can actually, out of the box, have a fast and typo-tolerant search, but also have a search that is relevant, and actually you can understand the relevancy of the search. And if you want to customize that relevancy with your business metrics, your business data, you can do so easily too. We are an API, but we also provide building blocks on top of it to help you go faster when implementing Algolia. And no matter verticals you are on, like if you have, for instance, a media app or an e-commerce website, you can use us to implement search. So I was talking about building blocks, which that means that we are actually maintaining a lot of API clients. So we cover pretty much all the language you have at the bottom of the slides for the backend, but also for the front end. We build some front-end UI libraries, again, to help you guys faster. And as I think you are interested in iOS tonight, if you want to try Algolia, you can actually try Instant Search for iOS. It's our front-end libraries to help having you search on your app. Tonight, we are going to have 3 speakers. So, I think you know it, but today, voice search is getting bigger and bigger. And tonight, Robert, which works at Algolia here, we talk to you how you can build conversational search on iOS. And then we're going to have Lana, that is a freelancer that we tell you how you can Rxify your iOS application in practice. And the very last speaker will be Theo from Depop that will tell you how we actually scale, how they scale their mobile marketplace. Yeah. So we are going to start. So for the first speaker, I want you to actually make a big round of applause for Robert.
Thank you, everybody. Actually, let me get rid of your... Who's this? Yeah, it's fine. Okay. technical problems. Okay. Great, it's working. So, hi everybody. Once again, my name is Robert. I'm an engineering manager at Algolia. I work on the mobile team, so basically we're building all the blocks for the interaction with Algolia. What does it actually mean in practice? It means we provide different frameworks. One would be the client, so you can actually make connections to Algolia, retrieve your data, and that's kind of it. And then we have this framework called Instant Search, which allows you to build UI and UX in a faster way. So instead of rewriting everything from scratch, the search bar, the table view, the filters, and so on, we provide that for you, and you can just drag and drop it in your apps. And Algolia, historically, we started with the search box. We start working on the search box, and we kind of build the way up from there. But we've been seeing in the last years that a lot of hype words and thingies that are trending are going on around AI, around voice search, around NLP, around all those things. We start looking what actually can be interesting for us to test it in production and see how we can actually help our customers. So tonight I'm going to show you how we actually approach voice search and conversational search in a small demo so that everybody can actually build it without needing any big research team or whatsoever. Before jumping into everything technical, I have a question. Who actually built anything around voice or conversational in their mobile apps? Perfect. Okay. So why am I showing a Nokia? Oh, sorry. I should not move that much. So we're actually building a framework for Nokia 3310. No? Bad joke, I tried it. So historically, when you think about how we actually use, how we do search, how we type, how we communicate when it comes to phones, it's been using a keyboard. So in the beginning, we kind of had this keyboard where, I know who remembers this, you had to type 1, 2, 3, 4 times to actually get to the character and so on. So it's taking a lot of time. It's definitely not something natural. We got used to it just for a simple reason. We had technical limitations back in the day. Then we kind of moved to a more normal approach. Like, this is a normal keyboard. We know how to handle it. We got used to it, but still, it's not natural. I still need to type whenever I want to communicate something. Recently, well, not that recently, Apple introduced and Android introduced the voice. So now you can actually use voice. This one actually brings us closer to our natural order. We tend to communicate. We use our mouth, we say words, and that's how we communicate. We don't need to spend that much time on typing. And this is an interesting thing. Okay, maybe messaging is not the best use case, because I'm not going to say in the subway, my message is around all the people. But when you think about search, when you think about actually navigating, it can be a really good thing. So we start looking at the stats, and we saw 20% of all the Google searches today are made by voice. That's pretty impressive. I don't know who actually uses voice to search on Google here. Okay, not 20%. And the estimations are that by 2020, 50% of all the searches are going to be made by voice. And this is, don't trust me, we just got this picture from a conference. Someone was saying 40% of the millennials were already making search through a voice assistant prior to actually buying. May make sense or not, don't take my word for it. Before jumping into technical questions and technical things, let's say what voice versus conversational actually is, at least for us. So when I talk about voice, it's basically replacing typing with voice. So I go on Amazon, I say blue shoes, and I get results. Conversational is more like getting close to actual human interaction. Like if I go into a store, I'm not gonna see the vendor and say blue shoes and that's it. No, I'm gonna say, hey, how's it going? Do you have some blue shoes from Gucci? Cool, do you have my size? So it's still a communication, and this conversational brings us closer to that. So I'm just gonna show you a small demo of what we built. So the front end, the iOS application was built in under 1 day, around a half a day. Everything else, the backend implementation was already made by one of my coworkers, Paul Louis, which is not here. But it's still impressive how fast can you go and build something in under a day, which was almost impossible 5 years ago. No, I don't. Can we have sound? I mean, doing a voice search demo without sound can be a bit tricky. Can we try? No. It was working before, and I don't have sound on my laptop. External. Okay, so it was. Hey.
Hello.
What can you do?
You can say things like, "Do you know Eminem?" to ask me about my music knowledge.
Cool. I actually need some help.
I was born to help you.
Perfect. Do you have any songs about love?
I know several songs on love. Love Rain Over Me, California Love, Whole Lotta Love.
How about Led Zeppelin?
I know several songs by Led Zeppelin, Kashmir, Stairway to Heaven, Whole Lotta Love.
And Rolling Stones?
Here's several songs by the Rolling Stones. I Can't Get No Satisfaction, Honky Tonk Women, You Can't Always Get What You Want.
Perfect. Play the first one.
With pleasure. Here's the first song.
Sorry. Okay, so that's that. Nope. Cool. So now we're gonna talk, if it's gonna work. Yes. On how does it work, actually. So there are three main components here. One is the mobile interface. I changed something and it didn't change, but okay, so it's the mobile interface, not search, because there's no actual search there. Then we have a conversational agent, which basically allows us to understand what's going on and what I'm saying, and then a backend powered by Algolia to do the search on the entities. And we'll get into technical details immediately, but before that, how was this more challenging than actual search, like when you use a search bar? There are a couple of reasons. So first is you need to be fast. You need to kind of have a conversation. Second, you need to be relevant. The first results are most important. Query can be messy because you talk a lot sometimes. And then you need to the search must go beyond just typos. So why speed is fast? Because when you're having a conversation, if you start saying things and then you wait for a minute to get a reply, well, that's not actually a proper conversation. So you're going to get bored and you say, okay, I'm going to use my keyboard. By using Algolia, we actually aim to go under 50 milliseconds when we're doing search. Then you can think about how long does it actually take to process audio into text, then the text into intent, and extract entities, and so on. Second is relevance. So relevance is very important. You saw it in my video. I left some typos there. I said, how can you help me? And she understood, how can I help me? Or things like this. So audio, like speech to text, is not perfect. So sometimes you're going to have things that are not going to be understood properly. You need to have a system where it's going to be able to understand your actual intent and be able to give you the best answer to even your typos. Second is synonyms. So just because I have something in mind and I know how to say something like VUI, which means voice user interface, doesn't mean everybody thinks the same. So sometimes we might use different words than other people, and we need to be able to understand all those things. We at Algolia, we have this thing called query rules, which allows you to make your search like even relevant by specifying things that are interesting and like tagging them. So when I say find me a cheap computer from Dell, or do you have any cheap Dell computer, I'm saying two different phrases, but the meaning is the same. So with this, you can aim to specify what you need. So we are able to extract things like what's the type you're looking for, what's the brand, and cheap, what does it actually mean for your business. In this case, for example, can mean under $500. I've been talking a lot, and we tend to do the same when you're doing voice search. So sometimes we say a lot of things, and if we're trying to be too precise, you're not going to find results. So another thing that you can do is consider some words optional. So just because I don't have any red dress with flowers for a cocktail party, I can have a red dress with flowers. Might not fit for a cocktail party, but we don't know. We are able to actually remove some parts and still show you something. So now let's dive into what actually is interesting for you, the front end, which is the actual interface. So we have three things that we're going to talk about, but the main part on the app is the speech to text, which basically allows you to send your voice to the agent. When I say agent, is basically the system behind that understands the intent. Then you have the intent detection and data retrieval. So based on what you're saying and based on what you're sending, you're going to get back first the reply, because you saw like the thingy was talking back to me. And second, the actual data that you need to show. And then, because we wanted to make it talk, well, we use the text to speech to turn the response into a voice. So for the front end, I don't know if you guys already, girls, work with this. There are three main components. And you'll see it's simple enough. The first one is the audio engine, which basically helps you generate and process the audio signals. Second is the speech recognizer, which is going to generate the text from the speech. And the speech synthesizer, which is going to transform the text into an actual speech. So let me show you a bit how it looks. I'm not going to show you the entire app. I'm just going to show you the most important things. So for the recording part, basically what's happening is you have the audio engine, which gives you access to an input node. This is a basic singleton, which allows you to access what's going to a node and output, the actual audio. Second thing that's important, you have a speech audio buffer recognition request. So this is going to allow you for everything that is said to get the data, the bits of stream that are getting from audio, and append them to the request. Of course, you prepare the engine. Can fail if you don't have an input node that is ready or things like that. Then with the speech recognizer, basically you're gonna ask for a task, which is getting backed with the request you are building. So with all this audio that I'm sending, please try to compute it into something that I can understand. And then you're gonna have some things back. First, you're gonna get a result and an error if the case. So the result is going to give you access to a lot of things based on what you're saying, but first, what we are actually using here is the best transcription of what you're saying, and this thing is actually changing at every input in the stream. So in the beginning, maybe it's not going to understand correctly what you're saying, but it's going to adapt. And then you can detect if what you said is final or not. So based on when you stop talking and so on, it's going to say, okay, this is it, you can process it. So every time we actually get some text back, we're gonna put it back to the controller that is using it, so we can actually show in real life. I mean, not in real life, but in real time, what you're saying. And if it's an error, you can change it. The recording, when you stop recording, you just destroy everything and you remove the tab. And now, okay. So on the UI part, the actual search view controller, once that you actually start, the recording, what we're doing is we use the controller I showed you before, which is the speech recognizer with two handlers. One, every time I get the text, first thing, I'm just going to save the new text. And then the debug voice label is what you're seeing up top with the actual text I'm saying. And if it's final, I'm just going to stop the recording, and so I can process the actual search. Okay, and so this is it. This part, it's just about basically speech to text. Then once that we actually have a text that we want to process, what we're going to do is we're going to start searching for it. This is where another API is coming into the game, which is called Dialogflow, and I'm going to tell you more about it later. But this basically gives you like an SDK that you can install it with like pod and so on. You initialize it with the keys and then you have access to the requests. So you're going to create a new request every time you have a text. You're going to set the query for it, which what has been said, and then you send the request and you get the completion whenever it's done. So this request basically what's going to give you is two things. The response, like if you actually have a response with the actual message that is getting back, the data that was retrieved, and like how accurate they think they interpreted everything, the entities and so on. And the second, of course, if you have an error. Okay. When we actually created, when we're using Dialogflow, that I'm going to show you later, we build it with two intentions in mind. One is we actually want results. So we want a list of different songs, songs. The second one is when I say play something, I know, play number 4 or play Joe Cocker. That's a second intent, and based on that, we're going to actually, do the action. And last but not least, like I told you, Dialogflow is going to give you back the list of results and what you need to show, and the speech that you need to, or at least the text that you need to display as for the bot. So that's where the synthesizer comes into place. With that text that Dialogflow is getting back, we create a speech with that text. We select the language that we want to use it. We can work with the pitch, we can work with the volume, we can work with like different stuff around the actual voice, and then we just say speak. So with 4 lines of code, you can actually have that proper synthesizer. Okay, so that's that on the actual front end. The intent detection, from now on, I'm going to go a bit faster. So like I said, the conversational agent, it was built with Dialogflow. Dialogflow is previous API.ai for those who actually used it. We customized it in order to recognize 2 entities. So the ones that are interesting for us are search and play. And then the entities we're looking for are themes and artists. So themes can be a song, for example, or like I said, love. The whole goal of the conversational accent, yes, I'm going faster, is to actually transform a sentence into an intent plus the parameters, and to actually turn their search results back into a response. So whenever we get stuff from Algolia, we ship it back to the app. There are 2 ways to actually customize the entities. One is system provided, so they could recognize things like colors, things like even some, like they recognize Rolling Stones, but they don't recognize the Cooks. If you want to actually have your own entities, there are 2 ways to do it. One, you manually create the entities, and second, they have this automated expansion feature that would generalize. So every time you're saying, can you search for whatever? In the beginning, they're not going to understand that whatever is an entity, but if you're doing it long enough and you train the system, it's going to be able to understand it, and it's going to send it back to you as a proper entity of song. The only problem with Dialogflow that we encountered, like it looked magic in the beginning, we had a lot less control when it comes to entity recognitions. So what I'm saying about entity recognition is things like typo tolerance, pluralization, when we have 2 precise queries, and advanced synonyms. So typos, things like I want to look for doc search, but I make a mistake. It's not going to recognize it as an entity, but then it's going to train, it's going to recognize it. Still, if I don't have anything in my database as the exact spelled word, it's not going to work. The way we fix it with Algolia, that's why we're using our backend, is we have our ranking formula, and we have all these things around search, so we can have typo tolerance. We can customize it, like how many actual characters I can miss based on the size of the string. And we can actually allow numeric tokens. So let's say I'm looking for the song 500 miles, but I forgot, and I'm saying like look for 800 miles. I can fix that too. Second is polarization. For whatever reason, let's say I have body parts, which are entities. They know heads and head is the same thing. They know feet and foot is the same thing, but hands and hand, no. So it's up and going. Same thing, we're using the ignore pros from Algolia. So if I'm looking for the song Raining Men, which is actually Raining Men, well, now I can find it. Two precise queries. So do you guys know the song Touch Me from The Doors? No. I knew the song, and I always thought it's Touch Me Baby, because it's in the actual lyrics. If you look for that, you're not going to find it. We have these things called remove words if no results. You can be the last word, the first words, or all words are optional. And this way, I can actually find the song. Yeah, I don't know Touch Me Baby, but I know the Doors have a song called Touch Me. Synonyms. I need to go faster. So synonyms, basically what's happening is, let's say I'm looking for rock songs, but I don't have a lot of rock songs in my data set. Maybe punk, we can consider it as rock. And there are two use cases, big use cases. One, if I'm looking for new wave, for punk, but I don't have a lot of punk songs, maybe new wave or oi is a subcategory of it. So I can actually display songs from that subcategory, because they're still considered as punk, even though in my query I have the punk word. The other one is I can have alternatives. So punk, we could consider it as rock. So every time I'm looking for punk, I'm going to see rock results on the bottom, because they're not, a subcategory of punk, but they're still synonyms. Last but not least, the backend. This is the easy one. It's just a gateway to Algolia. Basically, based Dialogflow is going to call Algolia, this backend, with the actual entities we're looking for. The backend is just going to make a request to Algolia, get the result back, ship it to Dialogflow, and get it back within the app after. Just for the sake of saying it, it was built with Node.js and Happy, which is a framework for building APIs, and is hosted on Heroku. Thank you. So now, if you have any questions.
Is there any way to hint the default Apple speech recognizer with like a vocabulary or something like this? I mean,
what do you mean? So basically using the one from the keyboard?
No. I mean the first step of speech recognition.
Yes.
Can you provide a vocabulary like to make the recognition more accurate? Like at one point there is a Rolling Stones utterance, and it's changed from something that's not Rolling Stones to capitalized Rolling Stones. And I wondered if the speech recognizer did this, or if it is corrected by the next layers of your architecture, or if the speech recognizer did this, is there a way to provide it some things that it wouldn't know?
So basically the question is, can you actually train the speech recognizer to adapt to what you're saying, or you need to correct it in a different domain? So far I didn't find any ways to actually train them. Okay. But that's why we're actually using different layers that's why we're using Algolia to be able to correct it if something happens. But to answer, no.
Okay, and so at that point in your demo, when you say Rolling Stones, and
yes,
it comes up on screen after some amount of time as Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
This is actually the speech recognizer output, or this is some lower layer of the architecture?
Okay, so the way speech recognition works is every time you're saying things, you get different streams of audio. So they are going to try to understand what you're saying. So they try to make sense of your sentences. And every time you append a new word or a new sound, they're going to reload the entire logic and try to correct if those things were not smart enough. So that's why you might see in the beginning something that is going to change into a proper way because they are actually doing it on the entire audio every time.
Yeah, okay, and in the end, Apple knew about
Yes,
Rolling Stones.
exactly.
Yeah,
so they do actually.
Okay.
One thing that I forgot to say, and I think it's important, especially with GDPR, is the way the speech recognition works. There are some locales that they're going to be processed internally on the phone, but most of them they're going to be processed at Apple. So everything you say, it's going to be sent to the Apple servers. So if you have apps that are using this, put that in your GDPR terms and conditions. This is not an advice, but it's just something that you should think about it.
Thanks.
Is there any other questions?
So most of work is done on
Don't hesitate to speak a bit more closer.
But what kind of work is done actually on mobile side to enforce say typos changing? Even typos changing is done on backend side?
Yes. So you need to choose at some point. Like you could start recoding a lot of things on mobile, but because everything is intense and you want to have really competitive speed, if you start processing a lot of text and a lot of audio on mobile, sometimes it might just be too long. So yes, that's what you're doing. You're going to use the backends, or I mean, in this case, the speech recognizer, it's on their Apple's backend. It's not even on ours, so we don't truly control it.
Okay.
But I mean, a lot of people have been doing like fuzzy search or typo tolerance and things like this on mobile, and it works. Like Algolia, historically, that's how it was created. It was a search engine on mobile. So it's doable. It's just think about your customers and like the constraints. I think.
How many languages do you manage actually?
Sorry?
How many languages do you manage actually?
That's a good question. How many languages? So it's based on locales, and I think they have around, I don't know, 40 locales that they support. If you look into the documentation, the way we built it is you kind of look like there are methods to check if a locale is available or not. So you can just run a for and that's it. But I don't know the exact amount of locales.
Okay, we are running a bit late, so
One
Robert.
last question, or no? Sorry. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can come and see me after, and I'll answer all the questions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Robert.
Sorry.
Okay, so our next speaker is going to be Lana, which is actually an former colleague of mine. She chose to do a freelancing job. I chose to go on a startup. But ultimately, she actually did a lot of iOS app for various clients. And lately, she kind of fell in love with reactive programming. And I think now, what she wants to actually share with you is how you can use RX to build an iOS application and what's are going to change and why it's better and stuff like that. Who knows a bit of RX yet? Who used it? Okay. So, you ready? Okay. Can you do a big round of applause for Lana, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I'm here today, this evening, to present you a little, to speak a little about RX, and mostly to present you how you can RXify your iOS application, your existing iOS application. My name is Roxolana Ivanishin. I am web and mobile engineer for 6 years. I used to work on Node.js, iOS, Objective-C and Swift, and recently on React Native. I really like reactive and functional programming. I am founder of Reactive Paris meetup, the first meetup about reactive programming in Paris. So you can join it if you want, if you're interested about it. And as many developers, I really love cats. So I will speak this evening about a little about ReactiveX, what it is, but really lightly. Marie asked you already. There are some people. You know a little about RX or reactive programming? Like how much of people? How much of people already tried it? Okay. How much of people use it in production? Okay, not so much. But I hope I could show you that you can use it in production. I'm using it in production like for more than 1 year. After I will present you a little operators, RX Swift operators. Some libraries, existing libraries that are transformed already on RX also. I will show you a little example to see a little difference between table view data source, classic table view data source, and RX data source. I will try to do some demo, like live coding, and that's it. So a little about ReactiveX. In ReactiveX site, we can find the definition and API of for asynchronous programming with observable streams. But what it means really? It means that if we have some asynchronous treatment or some event that can repeat, like network request or UI controls, you can these events can give you some data, or can produce an error, or maybe can stop to work. So RX help us to put like to wrap all this stuff in one thing that called observable, and it manage these three treatment, like data, error, and completion. Okay, more about RX operators. In fact, it is functional operators that you already use normally in your Swift, in regular Swift. There are so much, but the most the most known are map, flat map, filter, concat, merge, combine, latest, and so much more. Okay, RX Swift community did a lot of work to RXify almost all libraries that we use already. There are some RX Cocoa to manage your UI controls, RX data source, table view, and collection view data source, Fire, Realm, Firebase, etc. There are even core data, RX core data. So, as you know, that is a table view classic simple example. You need to declare all time your table view data source and your table view delegate. And you need to implement some methods like number of section, number of row, cell for row, and etc. Did select a row at. And this is the code to do the same thing with RX data source. Like you need just listen to the changes of your data that are observable. You bind it to data source with cell identifier, cell type, and after that you configure a cell like you do that already, and you can if you select one of item, you implement model selected also. Okay, So the advantages about RX, it's really easy to manage asynchronicity and concurrency. If we tap on a button 5 times, it works. It manages that really well. If you do some search in search bar, if you have a network call and you'd like to search it, to do it and have some data back, you can transform or merge all concurrent network requests and just bring data together and use this data in the same time, in one moment. The code base is really better and more clear. We don't need anymore some callbacks, delegates, or Cavio or notification center. And there are so less of side effects and errors. Okay, demo time. It is okay, maybe presentation large. It's better?
It was okay even before.
In the last one it was okay? Maybe because we cannot see anything.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's good? Okay, perfect. Okay. Just to present you, it's really... Okay, no, it's this one. It's a really simple application. There are some list of recipe, and we can search on ingredients or recipe title. You have some results after. When you click on one item, there are some details. So I don't think I will have enough time to explain you how to specify really all the whole app, but I'll try to do the maximum, and the rest you could find it in my GitHub. So data structure for the project structure is really simple, and I will start to transform network manager. Okay, so now we have some Alamafire request. We have 3 requests here, but I will just do some change just one. To start, we need to import RX fifth module. After that, we will create observable around of existing data, existing request. Now I can just copy paste my code here. So yeah, it's the error says that it is not conform to disposable. So we will register this request, and we will create our disposable. Yes, and as request can be interrupted on the way on the moment before it responds. We will say if the stream is interrupted, we will cancel the request. Okay, that's already almost it. We need just to return this observable. We return that, but we need to put it in return function of method. We will have some array of recipe. Okay. So I think that's it for this part of code. Yeah, that's it. But we not need any more some handlers. We will just tell to observer to emit on error here. Yep. Here API error, and here we will emit on next event with our recipes, and one more error. So we need to change our receiver, and to do that it's not so complicated. Our search recipe now it's unobservable. Yes. So we need just to subscribe to it. We'll just sorry. Okay, sorry. We'll just use on next part. Okay, and we can just put it there. Okay, and we don't need any more handlers error here, because it will handle on error on subscribing to on error event. Okay. So, and now we need just to dispose it. Why we need to dispose it? Yeah, we didn't create. We did not create yet the dispose bug, and I will explain you what it is. So dispose bug, it helps us to when for example the view will be destroyed. You need to unsubscribe of your events. So if you put it in the dispose bug, the Rx manage it for you. You don't need you don't need unsubscribe by yourself. Hope it's clear. Up. So now we have some dispose bug. Yeah, and it doesn't work. Sorry, why? Okay, there are some. Sorry. Yeah, I think I will switch to the next one, to the whole project on Rx, maybe. Because I think I forgot one part. Okay, so just to say, it's really quick to like transform your existing code to some Rx code. You could find the whole code on my GitHub, as I said it already. Yeah, like it can be like just that to retrieve your recipe. And up to, I will some conclusion because it's time. So I would like to show you with this presentation that it's really easy to transform your existing code. That it works really good with already implemented project with imperative approach. There are less of code. You could not see that because I didn't have enough time to show you more. But you could show that with example, with RX data source example. At least the code is more readable in general with RX. So thank you for listening. And thank you. And you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Roxana Ivanishina. I didn't put it, but Twitter. My project is on GitHub, and come to Reactive Paris to speak more about reactive programming and reactive system. Thank you.
Is there any questions? Don't be shy. There's no dumb questions. Come on. All right. Well, if someone has a question after, Lana will be there to answer it.
Yes.
Thank you, Lana.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So, 2 talks over 3. After the talk from Theo, we are going to have some Thai food ready for you and some drinks. And I encourage you to actually talk to each other and have great conversations afterwards. Right now, we're going to welcome Theo. So Theo is working at Depop. And actually here at Algolia, we are very proud to have speakers coming abroad when we are organizing some events like search parties. And actually, Theo comes from London. At Depop, they had to scale their mobile application, and scaling is usually good news because it means that you have some success, but it comes with some challenges. And from his product manager point of view, he's gonna present you that. So please welcome Theo.
Cool. Good evening. It's good to be here in Paris. Thanks to Algolia for having me. We've been working together for the past year, and it's been great hanging out at their office today. So yeah, I'm Theo Foley. I'm a product manager at Depop. This is my Depop profile. We all dog food the app and make sure we're using it to understand the problems that our users face. So what I wanted to talk to everyone, to you about tonight is the challenges that we face in scaling our mobile team. We've grown quite rapidly, so I think there's some interesting things that might be relevant to an iOS-focused audience. So, show of hands, does anyone know of Depop? Has anyone used Depop? Okay, so hardly anyone in the room. Good. So Depop is a social mobile-first marketplace. Our mission is to empower people to bring creativity to the world, and we're empowering a generation of creatives to break the mold, break out of the 9-to-5 corporate world, and basically build their own brands from their bedroom. And we have tons of young people on the app and old people on the app who are making use of their creative passions and selling items on the app. There's a focus for Depop around community, and ease of use, and social was really built into the platform from day one. So these are some of the core sections of the app. You list an item, and those items live on your profile. They're things that you're going to sell. People can like your items, they can save your items, comment on them, chat to you openly via messages. And then as you follow people, you start to see their items in your feed. You have an explore section where you can search, you can see curated content by Depop. And you can easily list things that you want to sell. Something that makes Depop stand out from other marketplaces out there is really our community. We have a very creative community of fashion bloggers, designers, artists, musicians, and that kind of creativity was built into the DNA of Depop from day one because our founder had previously run a magazine called Pig from Milan, who focused on identifying up-and-coming musicians and designers. And that was run for 10 years before he set up Super Sunglasses that revolutionized the sunglasses market. And lots of celebrities picked up on their sunglasses and helped them grow. And then in 2011, we got to the creation of Depop. And these are some of the early sketches on the left. And anyone that's into their electro music may notice Busy P, Pedro Winter, who was one of Simon's friends, who helped in the early pitch decks. And that was it. That was the beginning of Depop, social marketplace. And fast forward a number of years, 2018, we're still here, we're still going. We are now over 100 employees, mainly focused in London, but we also have spaces in LA, in New York, and Milan. And we've had over 11 million downloads so far. So this was the engineering team, top right in 2013. Marco, our back-end engineer, and Nabil, our first iOS engineer. And the iOS engineering team pretty much stayed one or two people for a number of years until last year in 2017. We had big investment into our engineering team. We went from around 20 engineers to 50 engineers, and our iOS team grew from 1 developer to 7 developers. And that comes with expectations that you're going to be able to deliver a lot more changes to the app. And without any scalable processes to help us do that, what we saw was a lot of change going on, but also we're releasing and introducing a lot more crashes. So our crash rate was going up, introducing a lot more bugs. And we were scared of releasing. And you should be celebrating your releases. You shouldn't be fearful of your releases. And release process was chaotic. There was no regular cadence. And not a great environment to be in, and not making use of that, investment that we've got. So our ability to test and learn and to add value to our users and add value to the business wasn't where it needed to be. So what are some of the things that the team focused on? Now, some of this might be textbook to you guys, but these are the things that have helped us to improve. Architecture was a focus, our release process, and automation. So on architecture, there wasn't really any agreed structure to the code. It had all been in Nabil's head. He was the only guy working on the app. Then we had 7 engineers all of a sudden writing lots of code, lots of stories, lots of Jira tickets. And the team had to agree on a common standard architecture, and guys have gone further. Viper architecture, meaning that the code is a lot more structured. As a product manager, I'm aware that I need to write solid acceptance criteria that can be used by the developers to create a more robust app that we can then build on faster in the future. And this type of change, often you can get met with resistance from some product managers when you want to refactor code, because there's lots of old legacy code that needs to come into this architecture. But there's this understanding between the development team and the product team that this is something that helps us to, going back to that diagram of build, measure, learn, we can go through that cycle quicker if we invest up front by getting a structured an architecture in place that allows us to do that in future. So that was one aspect of the things that we changed. Another aspect is around our release process, and in the past, we didn't really have much of a release process. We wanted to release every 2 weeks, but there was no regular cadence. As we scaled and we had a lot more change going on, you find that teams are close to the target release date, but not quite there. Product managers might be shouting, throwing their toys out the pram because they want to get their thing out there earlier in this release rather than just waiting another 2 weeks. And what some of the changes that we made to improve our release process. So previously we were putting untested code into a branch that was then having the release candidate cut from, and inside that we sometimes had untested code that hadn't been signed off by the testers. So we now have specific test builds. When a ticket's ready for a test, a prototype build is created. The tester then tests in that build, the ticket's signed off. That code then gets merged into what is our beta build, and the beta build is where we then cut our release from every 2 weeks. And that's a regular train that comes along, and what's ready to go out goes out. And we have a stable build to always cut from. And in the future, we might cut twice a week. It's not always going to be every 2 weeks. But we've got to a point now through changing some of our branching strategy, through having buy-in from the team about, from product managers that, your feature isn't that important. It can wait another 2 weeks. And I know as a product manager, there is going to be another release in 2 weeks. And it's going to be a lot more stable than it was previously. And then another aspect, so that means we can release more regularly and feel safer about the release we're putting out there. Automation, once again, I'm sure lots of people in this room, you guys have, you're doing this stuff, you're already aware of this, but we didn't have some of these tools in place. So there was a lot of manual work and a lot of opportunity for human kind of error. Something's ready for test, a developer had to go and get a hockey app link and stick it into a Slack channel or stick it onto a Jira ticket. We started to invest in the tools such as Bitrise, such as the Jira and Slack integration and Fastlane, so that the whole process now is more efficient, makes more efficient use of people's time, and reduces some risk of human error. And through these 3 changes, there's loads of work we still need to do, but we are seeing our crash rate is improved. We're far more confident about the releases that we're putting out there now. There's still bugs that come up, but we're going in the right direction. But in terms of what were the key ingredients for us to change, like I said, I think some of this stuff is probably textbook to you guys in the room. Maybe you're doing this, maybe you're not. But what I think is different about Depop is that we work as a team. We are a real team. We trust one another. You can sometimes find yourself in environments where there is a lack of understanding and lack of open communication between people in the team across the different functions, meaning that you can kind of create some more adversarial conversations, and rather than committing to doing the refactor work that you need to do so that you can then deliver more value to your users in the future, that stuff gets pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and you know what, you're not releasing that often. You're releasing 1 month, 2 months, and you're not getting any value out to your users. And this is something that I feel at Depop, we have a very open culture. We share the objectives. So to give you an example, I worked in a team last year that was focused very much around our search tab and explore tab, and there was just tons of stuff to do. It was the user experience was awful. So the way that we kind of approach this is, we're around a whiteboard. We're very lucky that we're co-located. We've got the engineers, we've got the QA, we've got people from marketing, we've got myself. We look at the data, we look at the problems in the user experience together. We look at the kind of objectives that have been drafted, and people can ask questions and we can challenge each other. Is this the right thing to do? And the team buy into the solutions that we create because we're creating them together. And by having this kind of open culture, I think it just makes for easier conversations when you do, some of that work that we looked back on previously around, investing in architecture, investing in automation tools. You might not, as a product manager, understand the importance of that when it's completely out of context. You guys are going to maybe go away this evening and you've learnt about voice search, you've learnt about Rifexy. Sorry, I can't pronounce it. But it depends on the culture that you're going back to and the environment you're working in, whether anyone's going to listen to you. Do you have the open forums? Do you have the opportunity to talk with product managers and challenge each other? I've been in environments where that doesn't really exist, and what you happen is people just smashing their head against the wall because no one's actually on the same page. And maybe the things that the tech team are saying that we should do, if it was some context to it and there was some common understanding, the product managers would buy into it straight away. So yeah, in this section of the app, we delivered tons of value to our users last year. We introduced, working with Algolia, we introduced things that are expected this day and age. We didn't have any search suggestions. We introduced as you type search results for our users, because a lot of people are looking for influencers on our platform who have helped promote Depop via social media. We did lots of tests. So over in the corner here, we tested showing price and size, because Depop tip doesn't actually have that. It's very visual. That didn't work, but that took one developer, and that was a 3-point story, and we put it out as an A/B test. We got a learning, and then we turned it off, and we might retest that in the future. the sort functionality, once we'd integrated Algolia, that was part of a developer's time in one sprint. All of the backend work was already there. It was just a case of adding the button in, basically. All of this stuff here, we created a new search experience. There was just tons of stuff that we did, and we were able to deliver fast because we'd done some of the upfront work that I alluded to earlier. And then ultimately, by doing that, we can get to where we want to be. We want to have happy users. These are some of the feedbacks I get sent directly on Facebook because we are very, very close to our users at Depop. Some of that is probably not safe for the workplace, but yeah. And then also keeping, there's investors to keep happy, there's the senior leadership to keep happy, and by being able to iterate fast because of some of that work we've done up front means that we're able to hit our goals. So appreciate this wasn't as much of a technical kind of talk as maybe you usually get at these things, but basically in summary, we experienced rapid growth in our engineering team. There was a sort of degradation of our app quality. The things that we focused on was architecture, putting in place a common Viper structure. All new joiners are onboarded to that. Developers understand how we're going to write our code and what we're going to do with legacy code when we're touching it. And product managers understand that as well. Releases, a much safer and regular release cadence that is putting us in a position to release whenever we want to. The tools around automation make it very, very simple for us to release now. There is no headache, it's a touch of a button. And ultimately, why we were able to do these things isn't just because they exist. There'll be another Viper, there'll be another Bitrise, there'll be another Fastlane. Those things are going to come and go. But actually trusting one another and listening to each other because we share common objectives and because we have open forms of debate and we can be direct with one another, that I think really helps us to achieve our objectives. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, I'm Theo, I'm a product manager. This is Nabil, who's head of our mobile team on iOS. So please get in touch if you want to learn more. And I think we're hiring, so yeah. Yeah, any questions?
Did you use analytics, and was it crucial to analyze what user did on a particular screen? And analyzing it, did you change some stuff, and how did it impact the results of your app?
Yeah, so we definitely use analytics. At the moment, we use Mixpanel for quite a lot of our analytics, which is quite an easy tool to plug into, and product managers can use it as well as people who are, insight specialists. And everything we do is kind of data driven. So looking at funnels, looking at the outcomes of an A/B test, where you put some people in a control, some people in a variant. But it's a good point because it's an area where I think we're really strong now on the build side of things. We're getting really strong there. We're building things rapidly and we can get things out rapidly and they're safe releases. But the tools and the skills around reporting on your A/B tests and understanding user behavior, that's something that I think we have opportunity to improve on, because sometimes with Mixpanel there's certain things you can do with their reporting tools that are not, they're okay, but they're not as powerful as if you were to know in SQL, like these user IDs were in the variant, these are in the control, and we can run deeper analysis using SQL queries. And I think one of the focus areas for us in the next kind of 6-12 months is probably to build our own A/B testing framework that kind of meets our needs. There's a lot of stuff out there, Optimize and other things, but I think there's an opportunity to just build it ourselves and get what we want from it, to be honest. But yeah, it's something we're gonna be focusing on. But yeah, analytics are key for us, being data driven.
Okay, cool. Wait a minute.
Regarding the question the guy just asked, how many A/B tests do you have or experiments in your app?
How many do we have live at this point in time?
Yeah.
We have one. We have one on the Explore page right now. We've got two separate. We've got two tests in our listing flow. One's on Android, one's on iOS, and they're different tests, so we can get different learnings, and then roll them out on the other platforms if they do well. We've got a couple on our Explore page. So I think I showed a picture of, is it now? Is at the start? Yeah, this. We've got a different structure to this at the moment because this is curated content. We actually hand curate this of people who look at every single thing that's coming onto the platform and pop the things that are cool. But it's very hard to scale that, and also it doesn't always match what the user wants. So we've got some tests on here at the moment about breaking it up, different entry points into the listings. So I think there's a good 4 or 5. I can't remember all the other ones. Yeah, but we've got about 4 or 5 tests live at the moment. And you raise a good point. At the moment, you should have oversight of all your tests because as we're scaling our tests, we need to understand the possible interaction effects. Someone needs to take responsibility for when it goes live, when it turns off, has it reached significance, doing the analysis. I quite often do analysis of search tests myself because I've worked at a very search-heavy and test-heavy company in hotels.com. I've got a bit of background in that. But we need to invest more in the people that actually run this because it's a full-time job really, and coming up with hypothesis and sense checking the hypothesis, sense checking the success metrics that you're going to be looking at. It takes investment. Someone like hotels.com where I worked, every single thing is tested, and their teams of analytics are massive. The teams of data science are massive, and the tools take time to build and take investment.
Any other questions?
You said you have 50 people in your dev team.
Yeah.
That's right. How, who manage, do you have 1 person, 2 person who manage and maintain your CI toolchain?
I think in the iOS team, they don't have one person who manages it. I think they share the workload. But to be honest with you, that's a question I might need to revert to Nabil, who I showed on there. I don't actually know the answer to that question if it's one individual person. Sorry.
You don't know? Okay.
Yeah.
Just to...
Is there last questions for Theo? All right. Well, thank you.
Cool.
So the food is almost ready for us, but I'm gonna require for 1 minute of your attention. At Algolia, we have an important growth, and we actually have a lot of open positions. And one of those is called the open source iOS engineer position. So it's the people that works with actually Robert on all the mobile libraries. So if one of you is interested by that, you can check our website and goes to algolia.com/careers. The second thing I wanted to tell you is about our next tech lunch. So this is another initiative. It does not happen at night. It happens at, for lunch. You could have figured that out from the name. The next one is next week on Wednesday, 30th of May. And it will be about distributed systems. And we will have a talk from our very own CTO, Julien Lemoine. So if you have any interest in distributed system, I invite you to come next week. And that will be it. Thank you very much for attending this search party. And I will let you, go there, have some food, have some drinks, enjoy your evening. Thank you very much.